The stars twinkled softly above a quiet meadow, where tall grass swayed like a lullaby in the night breeze. At the very edge of the meadow sat a tiny cottage no bigger than a teacup, with windows that glowed like candlelight. Inside the cottage, the sleep fairy sat on her little bed, brushing her shimmering hair with a comb made of moonlight. Her wings, which usually glistened like silver dust, were nowhere to be seen. The fairy touched her shoulders and sighed, her voice no louder than the rustle of leaves. "Without my wings, how will I scatter dreams across the world tonight?" she whispered. Every evening, it was her job to float gently through the air, sprinkling sleepy sparkles over children so their minds could drift peacefully into rest. But tonight, she could not fly. She looked around her cozy home. The shelves were lined with jars of dream dust, glowing softly in shades of lavender and blue. Her slippers sat neatly by the door, stitched from petals. Everything was ready for her nightly journey, everything except her wings. Outside, the meadow hushed, as though listening. The crickets chirped slower, the fireflies blinked softly, and even the moon leaned lower, curious about her plight. The sleep fairy pressed her hands together and closed her eyes. "If I cannot find my wings," she murmured, "I must find another way. For no child should miss their dreams." And with that gentle promise, she stepped out of her cottage and into the cool glow of the night, determined to begin her search. The meadow glowed with a hush of moonlight as the sleep fairy stepped softly onto the grass. Each blade bent under her slippers like velvet, releasing a faint shimmer of dew that sparkled with every step. She held a tiny lantern carved from a seashell, its light a soft, sleepy blue. "Somewhere in this night," she whispered, "my wings are waiting to be found." The fireflies stirred first. They rose from the tall grass in a gentle cloud, blinking like little stars come down to earth. One landed on her shoulder, its glow warm and kind. "Sleep fairy," it chimed in the faintest, tinkling voice, "we saw something silver drift across the meadow earlier. Perhaps your wings flew on the breeze." Her heart fluttered with hope. "Thank you, little star," she said, cupping her hands in gratitude. The fireflies bobbed together, forming a glowing trail, as if to say, "Follow us." As she moved forward, the crickets paused their song, then began again in a softer rhythm, one that matched the pace of her footsteps. Their music filled the meadow like a lullaby, guiding her way. She smiled at them, whispering, "Your song is like a lantern in the dark." A rustle came from the oak tree at the meadow's edge. The sleep fairy looked up, and perched on a low branch was a wise barn owl, its feathers snowy white and its eyes glowing like two moons. "Little fairy," the owl hooted gently, "I saw the glimmer of wings carried toward the brook. The night wind is playful, it may have borrowed them." The fairy curtsied politely. "Thank you, guardian of the tree. Your eyes see what mine cannot." The owl dipped its head and spread its wings, sending a soft breeze over her. The breeze caught her hair and made her lantern glow brighter, as if encouraging her forward. At the brook, the water trickled like a sleepy song, its surface silver with starlight. Frogs sat on lily pads, their throats swelling as they sang in a slow, deep chorus. One frog, small and green with golden spots, hopped close. "We saw something drift by," he croaked in a voice as gentle as rain. "It shimmered like moonbeams. It might have floated downstream." The fairy knelt by the water, letting her fingers brush the cool surface. It sparkled against her skin, tiny ripples glowing as though alive. She thanked the frog, who bowed with a solemn little nod before returning to his pad. She stood again, gazing at the soft trail of fireflies still guiding her path. "The night is kind," she whispered, "and I am not alone." Her heart filled with calm as she realized each creature had joined her search not out of duty, but out of friendship. She followed the brook as it curved, its banks lined with tall reeds that swayed like sleepy guardians. The wind carried the faintest sound of wings brushing softly, but when she looked, only reeds and shadows moved. Still, she pressed on, her lantern glowing brighter with every step. The sleep fairy followed the brook as it wound gently through the meadow, her lantern casting a soft blue glow on the reeds. The water sang quietly, a hush of trickles and ripples that seemed to whisper secrets as it flowed. Fireflies still hovered above, their glow like a trail of stars leading her onward, and the crickets sang their slow lullaby behind her, fading into the distance. The brook widened into a small pool, round and still as a mirror. The fairy paused at its edge, leaning closer. Moonlight spilled across the surface, painting it in silver. She gazed down and gasped softly. The reflection was not her face as she expected, but the faint outline of wings. They shimmered in the water, translucent and beautiful, as if they belonged to her still. She reached out a hand, letting her fingers touch the cool surface. Ripples spread outward, and the reflection trembled, fading and reappearing. It was as though the brook itself was holding her wings safe beneath its surface. "Are you keeping them for me?" she whispered. The water rippled again, and the fairy thought she heard a soft voice, low and kind, saying, "They are near. Keep going." She closed her eyes and listened. The night was quiet except for the soft hum of the brook. Yet as she stood still, she began to notice something new, whispers, so faint they could have been mistaken for the wind. They came not from around her, but from within the pool. She leaned closer, her lantern swaying gently in her hand. The whispers grew clearer. "Rest is waiting. Follow the light. The wings know the way back." The sleep fairy touched her shoulders where her wings should be and smiled softly. The pool was not teasing her, it was guiding her, showing her that the wings were close, perhaps just beyond this quiet meadow. As she rose, the reeds swayed, their tops brushing together in a sound like hands clapping softly. Out from the reeds stepped a small hedgehog, his spines tipped with dew that sparkled like gems. He blinked up at her, his tiny nose twitching. "I saw something glimmer," he said in a voice as soft as moss. It drifted toward the dream grove. The fairy bent to meet his gaze. "The dream grove?" she asked gently. The hedgehog nodded. "A place where the trees glow with starlight. Only those who seek dreams may enter. Perhaps your wings went there, for they are made of dream dust too." Her lantern light reflected in the hedgehog's tiny eyes, and she placed a hand over her heart. "Thank you, kind friend. I will go there." The hedgehog bowed politely and curled into a ball, already half asleep in the grass. The fairy smiled and turned toward the direction he had pointed. The fireflies swirled above her, rearranging themselves into an arch, like a glowing doorway leading further into the night. The sleep fairy stepped through the arch, her slippers brushing the grass with each careful step. The whispers of the brook faded behind her, replaced by a new sound, a faint, steady hum, like hundreds of voices humming a lullaby far away. She felt it in her chest, soft and calming, pulling her gently forward. Her lantern glowed brighter, as though it, too, knew she was drawing closer to what she sought. She walked on, the meadow parting before her, until in the distance she saw a line of trees glowing faintly silver. The Dream Grove. The Dream Grove shimmered ahead like a secret kept just for the night. The sleep fairy's lantern flickered softly as she stepped closer, her slippers brushing against moss that glowed faintly beneath her feet. Each step left a footprint of silver light that slowly faded, as though the ground itself was remembering her presence. The grove's trees were unlike any others. Their trunks glistened as if carved from crystal, their branches arching high into the sky. Leaves dangled like threads of starlight, glowing gently, swaying even though no breeze touched them. Each leaf hummed with a tone, and together the trees filled the grove with the most soothing music, a harmony so soft it felt like a lullaby woven by the forest itself. The sleep fairy paused at the threshold. Her heart warmed, for she felt she was entering a place where dreams were born. "If my wings are made of dream dust," she whispered, "surely this is where they would come." She stepped inside. The grove welcomed her with a hush. The glowing leaves lowered slightly, brushing against her hair as though greeting her. Her lantern's blue glow mingled with the silver of the trees, and for a moment, the whole grove seemed to sparkle brighter. From the shadows beneath one tree, a figure emerged, a deer, tall and gentle, its antlers draped in vines of stars. Its eyes shone with calm wisdom, like two pools of midnight. The sleep fairy dipped into a curtsy. "Guardian of the grove," she said softly, "I seek my wings. Have you seen them?" The deer lowered its head in acknowledgement. Its voice, when it spoke, was like wind through branches, deep, slow, and kind. "Your wings are close, little fairy. They are made of this grove, spun of its leaves and its song. But wings must never be taken, they must be called." The fairy's brows furrowed gently. "Called?" she asked. The deer stepped aside, revealing a small clearing. At the center stood a circle of stones, each one glowing faintly. Above the stones hovered a swirl of light, shimmering faintly, fragile as mist. As the fairy watched, the swirl shifted into the faint outline of wings, transparent, incomplete, waiting. Her heart leapt. "My wings," she breathed. The deer nodded. "They hear you, but they are not yet yours. To call them back, you must remind them of what they are meant for. They carry not just you, but the dreams of all who wait for sleep. They will return when they feel your purpose." The fairy stepped into the circle of stones. The hum of the grove grew louder, wrapping around her like a blanket. She closed her eyes, pressing her hands together over her heart. She thought of every child who had ever drifted into dreams beneath her starlight dust, their peaceful sighs, their safe rest, their gentle smiles and sleep. She whispered softly into the night, "Wings, I do not seek you for myself. I seek you for them, for every dreamer who waits for my touch. Come back to me, so I may carry their dreams once more." The swirl of light above her shimmered brighter, as though stirred by her words. The outline of the wings grew clearer, silver threads weaving themselves together from the air, from the song of the trees, from the glow of the stones. The deer's antlers glowed, sending streams of starlight into the circle. The fireflies that had followed her twirled above, their golden glows joining the weave. Even the crickets outside the grove fell silent, then began their lullaby again, slower, softer, as if lending their song to the ritual. The sleep fairy lifted her arms slightly, and the wings shimmered downward. They brushed her shoulders like a memory returning, then fastened gently to her back with a glow that made the grove shine brighter than the moon. Her heart filled with warmth, and her eyes glistened with joy. She stretched the wings once, and silver dust drifted into the air, sparkling as it fell. They were whole again, strong, shimmering, and hers. The deer stepped back into the shadows, its voice fading like a lullaby, "Carry the night well, little one. Your wings will never leave you again, so long as you remember why they exist." The sleep fairy bowed deeply, tears of gratitude in her eyes. Then, with her lantern glowing and her wings now complete, she rose gently into the air. The dream grove below hummed softly, as though singing her onward. The sleep fairy hovered above the glowing dream grove, her wings glistening like twin rivers of starlight. She stretched them wide, feeling their strength ripple through the air, and a trail of silver dust spilled gently behind her, twinkling as it fell onto the grass below. The trees hummed a lullaby of farewell, and the deer with star-draped antlers lifted its gaze in blessing as she drifted higher. For the first time that night, the fairy felt whole. Her wings did not just belong to her, they were a promise to the world, stitched together by the kindness of every creature that had guided her, and by her own devotion to the dreamers waiting quietly in their beds. She whispered into the night, "Let us carry them safely into dreams." She soared softly over the meadow, her lantern swaying gently in her hand. The brook below still trickled with sleepy songs, and when her dust brushed its surface, the water sparkled brighter, carrying its lullaby downstream. The reeds bent toward her, bowing as she passed. The hedgehog stirred in his ball of spines, curling tighter as a sprinkle of dream dust kissed his nose, drawing him into a deeper, sweeter slumber. She drifted to the great oak tree where the barn owl still perched, feathers glowing in the moonlight. The owl hooted softly in greeting, its eyes warm and wise. With a flick of her wings, the fairy sent a small cloud of silver dust swirling toward him. The owl blinked slowly, lowering his head as though the dust wrapped him in peace, promising that even guardians of the night deserved rest. Onward she flew, her wings carrying her across the town at the meadow's edge. The houses slept beneath their roofs of thatch and stone, windows dark, chimneys quiet. Through each window, she could sense the steady breathing of children, tucked into their beds, their blankets curled around them like cocoons. She hovered above each home, scattering a handful of shimmering dust that floated gently down, slipping through window cracks and drifting over pillows. In one house, a little boy stirred restlessly, his brow furrowed even in sleep. The sleep fairy touched her lantern, and a soft beam of blue light flowed across the room, painting it in calm. Her dust settled gently over him, and his breathing slowed, his frown easing into a small, peaceful smile. She whispered, "You are safe, little dreamer." In another cottage, a girl clutched her blanket tight, turning as though searching for comfort. The fairy dipped lower, brushing her wings across the air, and a wave of silver sparkles covered the room. The girl sighed, her hands relaxing, her shoulders sinking into her pillow. A faint smile touched her lips as she drifted deeper into her dreams. The sleep fairy traveled from house to house, her dust trailing behind her like falling stars. The streets glowed faintly under her lantern's light, cobbles shimmering as though bathed in moonbeams. Cats on doorsteps blinked lazily, their tails flicking once before they curled tighter, their purrs vibrating like tiny engines of calm. Dogs twitched their ears in sleep, sighing with contentment as the dream dust touched their fur. Everywhere she went, the night grew calmer, softer, as if the world itself were sinking into a pillow of clouds. The fireflies followed her, weaving patterns of golden light in the air, a playful chorus to her silver. The crickets slowed their song until it matched the beat of her wings, steady and low, rocking the meadow into stillness. When at last the village was blanketed in sleep, she rose higher into the sky. From above, the rooftops looked like resting children themselves, tucked under a quilt of moonlight. The stars twinkled approvingly, and the moon beamed brighter, as though proud of the little fairy who had found her wings again. The sleep fairy's heart swelled with quiet joy. Her wings carried her not with effort, but with purpose, as though they knew exactly where to go. She whispered to them, "Together, we will always find the dreamers." And the wings, shimmering brighter, seemed to whisper back, "Always." The sleep fairy's journey through the village and meadow left the world wrapped in the softest stillness. Every house, every creature, every leaf of grass now seemed to rest, touched by her silver dream dust. Her wings glowed faintly in the moonlight, their strength steady, no longer fragile or faint. As she drifted higher into the sky, she turned her lantern gently toward her home, and the soft blue glow guided her like a star. The meadow greeted her return with hush and warmth. The crickets sang only a whisper now, their lullaby slower, like the final notes of a song easing into silence. The brook gurgled faintly, its ripples carrying sparkles of dust from earlier, as if holding on to her magic until morning. Fireflies hovered near her cottage door, their golden lights flickering in gratitude, weaving tiny shapes of wings in the air as though to celebrate what had been found. The sleep fairy landed softly on the mossy doorstep of her teacup-sized home. Her slippers barely made a sound as she stepped inside. The little cottage glowed warmly, lit by jars of dream dust that lined the shelves. The jars pulsed faintly, like sleepy hearts, and the room smelled of lavender and honey. She set her seashell lantern onto its hook, where it swayed slightly, casting ripples of calming light across the walls. Her wings, now whole and strong, folded neatly against her back. She touched them gently, as if to reassure herself they were truly hers again. "Thank you," she whispered to them, "for returning. Thank you for reminding me why I fly." The fairy crossed to her tiny bed, carved from a curled petal of a giant flower. Its blankets were soft as clouds, stitched from thistledown, and its pillow glowed faintly with starlight. She climbed in, tucking her legs beneath her and wrapping the blanket close. Her wings curved over her like another layer of comfort, shimmering faintly in the dim glow of her room. Outside the window, the moon leaned lower, spilling silver light across her floor, as if to keep her safe while she slept. The Dream Grove's song still echoed in her heart, and she felt the quiet hum of the deer's blessing with every breath she took. She knew the night would always be there to guide her if she faltered again. The fairy closed her eyes, her breathing soft and slow. The room seemed to breathe with her, the jars of dream dust pulsing gently, the lantern swaying faintly, the cottage walls holding her in a hug. The world outside hushed entirely, as though giving her space to rest. And as her mind drifted into sleep, the same silver dust she had given to others seemed to fall back upon her, wrapping her in dreams as gentle as a lullaby. She dreamed of meadows glowing with stars, rivers humming softly, and wings carrying her forever through skies that never ended. The sleep fairy sighed once, deeply content, and then she was still, safe in her bed of petals. And so the night whispered to every dreamer, child and grown alike, you are safe. You are warm. You are loved. Your dreams will be gentle. Your rest will be sweet. You are exactly where you need to be. The moon drifted higher, the stars blinked slowly, and the world, tucked under its blanket of silver light, slept.